The year is 2024. Wall Street is in stunned silence. Intel, the undisputed and ruthless king of Silicon Valley, drops the most disastrous financial report in its half-century history. A $19 billion net loss in just 365 days. This isn't a temporary dip. This is the sound of an empire's bones being crushed. The media blames technical issues and competition from AMD, but the truth is much darker and much dirtier. Intel's fall didn't happen overnight. It was a slow suicide that took decades. A story of arrogance, deadly cover-ups in the labs, and the greed of executives who sacrificed the future of humanity for their multi-million-dollar bonuses. The real story is about a company that, with a single word, no, set its own future on fire and destroyed hundreds of billions of dollars. But who exactly did they say that historical no to? Rewind to 2006. Steve Jobs walks into the office of Intel CEO Paul Otellini with a top-secret pitch. Apple is building a device that will change the world. The iPhone. Jobs wants Intel to build the brain of this device. It was a golden ticket to dominate the next 100 years. Otellini's answer? A firm, arrogant no. Why? Because the finance team's Excel spreadsheet said the profit margins were too low, and mobile phones would never replace computers. Otellini later confessed in his retirement interview, "My gut told me yes, but the data said no." But the disaster didn't end there. That same year, Intel sold off its entire mobile processor division for a laughable $600 million. Apple, facing Intel's closed doors, had no choice but to turn to an obscure architecture called ARM. The very same architecture that 15 years later grew so monstrous that Apple humiliated Intel by kicking them out of Mac computers entirely. Do you think Intel learned its lesson? Not at all. The year is 2017. Artificial intelligence is about to explode, and no one quite grasps its depth yet. A tiny startup named OpenAI slides a historic proposal across Intel's desk. Buy 15% of our company for $1 billion. Bob Swan, the Intel CEO with an accountant's mindset, vetoes the deal. He arrogantly claims that AI models are nowhere near ready for the market and won't make them any money. They handed the future on a silver platter to their rival, Nvidia. The same Nvidia that Intel's board refused to buy for just $20 billion back in 2005. Today, OpenAI is worth over $80 billion. And Nvidia? At a $3 trillion valuation, they are the kings of the world. And Intel couldn't even afford to buy one of their subsidiaries. But let's pull the curtain back on Intel's darkest secret, where moral corruption and cover-ups replaced engineering. Years 2023 and 2024. Thousands of gamers and data centers worldwide are living a nightmare. Intel's flagship 13th and 14th gen processors are constantly crashing, delivering the blue screen of death. Intel stays silent for months, pointing the finger of blame at motherboard manufacturers. But what was the truth? A hidden catastrophe called oxidation. The microscopic connections inside the chips were literally rusting at the atomic level. Leaked documents proved Intel knew about this disastrous flaw since late 2022. But instead of issuing a recall, they kept selling the rusted chips. And this wasn't the first time Intel executives betrayed their users. Remember the terrifying Spectre and Meltdown security flaws discovered in 2017? What did the CEO at the time, Brian Krzanich, do? 2 months before the news went public and the stock crashed, he sold and cashed out $25 million of his own stock. It was legalized looting, while rivals like TSMC in Taiwan were reinvesting every penny of profit into new tech and machines. Intel's executives spent over $100 billion of company cash on stock buybacks between 2005 and 2021. Why? Just to artificially inflate the stock price and secure their million-dollar bonuses. Product engineering was dead. Now only Wall Street's financial engineering mattered. Now in 2026, all the loops close. The bill for that arrogance and those lies is on the table, and there's no money left to pay it. The Intel empire is now dismantled. The company's structure has been split into manufacturing and design just to stop the bleeding. Intel's design division, in order to survive, is now begging for manufacturing space from its biggest rival, TSMC. AMD, a company that once wasn't even visible in Intel's rearview mirror, has now devoured nearly 30% of the global server market. The fall of Intel isn't just tech news. It is a bloody lesson for the entire history of economics. When accountants and stockbrokers take the place of engineers in the boardroom, when satisfying Wall Street for the next quarter becomes more important than innovating for the next decade, even the undisputed king of Silicon Valley gets dragged off the throne. Intel might survive, but it will never, ever be the same empire again.